Welcome to Animated Discussions. My friends call me D, and today we can either get busy living or get busy dying. But either way, we're gonna get started. Ow. So, we're doing Shawshank Redemption today. Super excited about it. Never seen it. It's one of the ones I haven't seen. Everyone always talks about this movie. Apparently, it flopped in the theaters.
So imagine going to see a movie and then going to your friends and say, I just saw one of the most terrific movies. It's called Shawshank
Reduction.
Yeah. Never mind.
So the movie flopped. However, it was still nominated for 7 Oscars in 1944. It didn't win any. It was the same year that Forrest Gump came out.
From that day on, if I was going somewhere, I was running.
Anyways, it has an amazing cast. It has Tim Robbins.
One for each of your victims. So be it.
And also the great, the amazing voice of the Lord himself, Morgan Freeman. It was directed by Frank Darabont. I don't know if I'm saying his last name correctly. And this movie was written by Frank and Stephen King. This is based off the book Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption. Guys, if you don't know Stephen King.
I see dead people.
God's sake.
It's for the best.
You float soul!
Green Mile, which Frank also directed. So they have a pretty good symbiotic relationship.
Fucking teamwork.
But let's get into Shawshank. I love the beginning. I really do. The beginning starts with this song called If I Didn't Care. And it's the song comes off very jaunty, almost like, what's the word I'm looking for? Lighthearted, almost, which is so fascinating to me because you can feel the tension of Andy, Tim Robbins' character, sitting in the car, just staring. And so it's just this very interesting juxtaposition because all I knew about the movie was it was about this guy who went to jail who says he was innocent and Morgan Freeman helps him in some way. That's kind of all I knew about the movie. And so watching the beginning, I'm like, it's starting with almost what seems like a light note, cutting and then slowly fading into not.
Oh, scary.
Really kind of blew my mind. Because it's this whole idea of like tension. You can start with tension, but if you start lighter, the tension gets even heavier when it appears because it's like, oh,
I guess I must have misunderstood.
My mistake.
oh, we're not happy. What's going on? And I really enjoyed that. I also loved the cut scenes between the courtroom and what Andy does the night of the murders. He's like,
We have the accused at the scene of the crime. We have footprints, tire tracks. We have bullets strewn on the ground which bear his fingerprints.
it was almost like a voiceover. And so you see everything that leads up to his conviction. And so you expect to see either him toss the gun in the river where he says he did it, threw it, or shooting the people. And you don't see either, so you don't know if he's innocent or guilty. And I love that. I love it leaving it a mystery. My favorite line from the movie, I might have some more, but as I'm going through my notes, I'll let you know. But my favorite line that I remember is,
Since I am innocent of this crime, sir, I find it decidedly inconvenient that the gun was never found.
it's just like, yeah, you can keep telling me that this is convenient, but look at where we are. It's obviously not convenient at all.
Read the room.
It's also very interesting because the judge says something along the lines of like to Andy, he's like, you're a cold-hearted man. It hurts to look at you, or something like that. Did you know that there was a serial killer, the charismatic one? Dahmer, I think it's Dahmer. When he was convicted, the judge said, you seem like a good guy. I hate to do this to you. I hope you turn your life around. Which just shows you can't judge a book by its cover, because Dahmer was a very charismatic person, extremely charismatic.
Ladies.
Which is just fascinating to me. Like, Andy talks about later how his wife struggled with him because there was no connection there. It was hard to get to know him.
My wife used to say I'm a hard man to know.
And this judge talks about how isolating or how cold Andy is.
You strike me as a particularly icy and remorseless man, Mr. Dufresne.
And then someone like Ted Bundy is like, so they consider him very charismatic, very nice, very handsome. Can't believe he threw his whole life away. Doesn't give serial killer vibes. And it's just fascinating to me about how often we judge by our comfort and how often we focus on like what feels good. If something doesn't feel good, it has to be bad. It's not the case.
It's true!
Our first shot with Morgan Freeman is him coming in. He's been in prison for 10 years and he's up for parole. So he's meeting with the board and they're like, do you feel like you are ready for rehabilitation into society? And he says, oh yes, I've changed my ways. I'm a new person. Da 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 da. Scouts honor and all this stuff. And I'm watching this, and I'm like, Morgan looks so young. He looks 50, but he looks so young. And then he gets rejected. And oh, another line that I liked.
Yeah, and how you feel? I'm up for rejection next week.
It just talks about how no one gets parole, ever. And so they don't even call it the parole hearing anymore. They just say I'm up for rejection. And it's this weird anniversary of like, wow, 10 years. Because apparently it happens every 10 years in the movie. This is fascinating to me.
Yeah, I got rejected last week.
There's something else I really notice about that scene is because Morgan Freeman says, yes, I do. And it gets quiet. It's quiet, and he keeps talking. And there's almost like a nervous energy for him there. And what's really interesting to me in that nervous energy is there is a tactic that a lot of people who are trying to get information from people use, like interviewers use this, is if you ask someone a question, don't respond even after they answer. So if someone were to be like, so tell me about yourself. I think I'm qualified for the job because I work very hard. And I do this and that, and I saved a cat once. And, and so if you keep silence going, people just keep talking and they start to like say too much. And people, because they get so uncomfortable with silence, start to reveal things that they probably wouldn't normally. And I feel like the board did that a little bit, and Morgan was getting nervous. His character was getting nervous and was like, and just said too much, which I thought was awesome. Not obviously not awesome for Red, but just really cool that you could kind of see that nervous energy off of Freeman. One thing I noticed a lot was there's a lot of symmetry in the prison. And when you meet the warden, it kind of makes sense. He says something about like,
put your trust in the Lord. Your ass belongs to me.
And he talks about how the only rule that you need to know right now is we're not using the Lord's name in vain. So, his outfit's very tailored and very ironed, and he comes off as a very pious, person, which is fascinating to me because as you see the bus come into the prison, it's cut up, like the trees are lined perfectly. There are cars along either side parked in that middle intersection, and it's just very prim and proper. And I feel like that also represents what the warden is trying to showcase about himself in this movie. So I found that fascinating. There are a few other shots that pop up there too, that I just really think are like, whoa, that's kind of cool to showcase the tight ship that the warden is trying to run.
Attention!
The scene where things start to change for Andy when he gets roof access and lets Captain know, hey, if you give it to your wife, you don't have to pay taxes on this money. You can do it one time a year. And he risks getting thrown off the roof. He doesn't realize that that's what's about to happen, but and all he asks for is beers for his friends. He doesn't even want the beer. I love the hope that the light shows in that.
And that's how it came to pass, that on the second to last day of the job, the convict crew that tarred the plate factory roof in the spring of '49 wound up sitting in a row at 10 o'clock in the morning, drinking icy cold Bohemia-style beer, courtesy of the hardest screw that ever walked a turn at Shawshank State Prison.
It almost looks like a sunrise when they're all drinking the beers. It's probably the brightest that the movie kind of looks. Or no, not the brightest. It's the warmest that the movie looks throughout the whole movie. I love how warm it is he doesn't even care, like, that he doesn't get a shot. There's a great shot of Red there where he's on like 1/3 of the screen just watching Andy, and Andy's just sitting there smiling.
As for Andy, he spent that break hunkered in the shade, a strange little smile on his face.
Tim, the guy who played Andy, says that he just wanted to feel normal for a minute. That's what he was trying to portray in that role. Was just like Andy just needed a sense of normalcy. You know what I mean? I love that. I also really enjoy the passage of time throughout this movie. When Andy first shows up and he eats, and there's a maggot in his thing, and then Brooks is like, "Hey, you gonna eat that?" And you think Brooks is gonna eat it, but he actually.
Jake says thank you.
It took me forever to realize later, when Brooks gets released, that is the same bird. And it's just, oh, it makes me say it. One thing I love about Freeman, he does a lot of acting with his eyes, and it's not just the emotion, because that's very hard to do, to create emotion in your eyes if you're not actually feeling that, like making yourself feel those emotions. That's very hard. But he does these very almost imperceptible like movements with his eyes. There's this one scene,
and a total fucking mystery. I hate it.
He literally, like, all he talks about is how he hates chess, but it's just like he's just like, it like doubles down on how much he hates chess. He's like, and a total effing mystery. I hate it. And it's just, it doesn't even seem like that big a deal, but I love it so much. And he does that again later when he's interrogated by the warden about where Andy goes.
Well,
what?
I see you two all the time. You're thick as thieves, you are. He must have said something.
Also, Warden. Not a word.
And he does a very good job of using his eyes to tell more of the story. And I really appreciate that. I think that's so cool. Everyone. So nobody really believes Andy. But what I love is Morgan, or Red.
innocent. Only guilty man in Shawshank.
Like, he's immediately like, yeah, I did it. And there's this sense of honor there, of like, yep, I was the bad guy. And it already, so Red is already pulled aside as a character because he's narrating. He's also black. There's like 2 or 3 other black people we don't really get to see in the movie. And then, but this also, he's the guy who can get in, you can get anything from.
Have you ever had a dream that
And he's the one guy who acknowledges that he did what he did. And I feel so dumb because I know there's something important there. And I think that it's amazing. I think it showcases who Red is. I think it showcases his acknowledgement. But I feel like there might be something more there that I'm missing. And another reason why he acknowledges it immediately. And it might just be what I think it is, of just Red knowing that lying's not going to change anything. There's no point in lying. He knows he did it. I think there's also I think there's also a resignation there, where he's resigned to his fate, where he knows, I did it. Nothing's gonna change. I think that's what it is. I think this is what it is. I think I figured it out. It showcases his lack of hope. That's what it is. Okay. I think I
Losing my mind.
Walk with me. I think it showcases his lack of hope. And I think it showcases, he's like, there's no point in hoping that some case will get reopened or something. I did it. It's not going to change anything. And okay. For like this. We're like this.
We are totally simpatico.
Okay, when Andy asks for Rita Hayworth, I get very confused because I didn't know what he meant. Obviously, they did that on purpose. And then you see it's the movie poster. And when he puts the poster up, this is the moment I realize what's gonna happen. I suddenly know, oh, okay. Because I really believed him when he said that the rock axe or rock chisel or rock hammer, whatever it's called, was not to break out because it would take forever. And he liked rocks. And I was like, okay, yeah. Listen, when I say I get it, I have such a big rock collection. I can't even show it to you because it's so big and it'd take forever to move. But I have rocks everywhere.
I got a rock.
They're my fidget toys. I have some in my car. I have some in my living room. I have some in some of my purses because they help when I have anxiety. I pick them up when I go on my morning walks. So I was like, yeah, I should get it. I literally was like, I should get a rock hammer. I could chisel some stuff with my rocks. Like, that's where my brain was. I was like, this is a great idea. And then when I saw the poster, because he had already started signing his name, and I thought him signing his name was him acknowledging where he belonged. That this is where his life is. I thought it was the resignation as well. No. As soon as I saw how big that poster was, I was like, okay. And I think for me, it's cheating. Like, this is the year of our Lord and the Savior, whoever you want to, 2025. You know what I mean? And the poster in the prison cell has been used numerous times. You know, back then, I don't know how many times that was used in media. So for me, it was like, clocked it. You know what I mean? I can't say that I would have guessed that in 1994. I also was 3 years old.
You do the math.
Fashion-wise, I have to say I'm obsessed with the prisoner's pants. I love the fits. I love the length. I love the width. I love the pockets. I love how great they look with suspenders. I need to see who the costume designer was for Shawshank.
Hold, please.
Okay, Elizabeth McBride was the fashion designer for Shawshank. Oh, she also did Driving Miss Daisy, so she's worked with Morgan Freeman before.
What a small world.
Literally, I paused to start shopping because I am in love with those pants, especially the placement of the front pocket. You can get the cut, but you can't get the pants with the pocket, which means I need to find someone who can make clothes because I want those pants so bad. They look so cool.
Carry on.
When Brooks's parole comes through and he threatens to kill, I'm so sorry I forget his name, but he threatens to kill the character that wanted to tell him congratulations.
Brooks, we can talk about this, right?
Nothing to talk about, goddammit, it's all talked out. I'm gonna cut his fucking throat.
You don't know why he wants to kill the character, and then you find out it's parole.
Complicated emotion.
It's such a unique fear to not want to leave your cage. But we all have that cage. There is some comfort zone that we don't want to leave. The brain chooses comfort, not happiness, 98% of the time. You have to rewire your brain to pick happiness. And if you spent 50 years in a cage, everything's going to feel massive and huge. And as Brooks writes, he saw a car as a kid once, and now there are cars everywhere. The world moved so fast. Oh my gosh. So watching his whole process, the letter, was insane. Him taking the knife and carving, and you don't know what he's doing, and you're like, you feel it coming, and the shot where it keeps focusing on the shoes, and you don't see the rope for a while, and it keeps building the tension and building the tension and building the tension. And I was like, either he's gonna fall or he's gonna hang himself, but I don't see the rope, so maybe he just falls. And he's an older man, so he's probably hurts himself. And then you see it, and it's just, it's so hard, because here's the thing. we watch movies like this.
We come to this place.
And we feel bad for the character. We feel bad for Brooks. And then real life happens and we say, oh, they get what they deserve. That's what their problem is. I'm not saying that people should go free. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that rehabilitation is important and needs to happen. But we need to give them better tools for when they get out. I think it's Switzerland. I have to look it up again. But there's a prison in Switzerland where everyone is treated with respect. They go through therapy, they take classes, and they leave better off than they came. And the return rate is so low. And I don't know why it's such a novel concept to just treat people with respect and accountability. Acknowledge, yeah, you were wrong. You have to pay for your crimes, but we're going to help you get better. I do believe that sometimes there are people beyond saving, but I don't think it's as many people as American prison systems believe there are. And it's very frustrating to me. And so I love showcasing that vulnerability that Brooks has, but I hate the fact that it's only in fantasy that we can feel empathy for someone like that. No, like if you read the book, he killed his wife and kid. Bad. Not good. Not good at all. So I understand that accountability needs to happen. I get it. But there are crimes a lot less severe than that get huge prison sentences and are considered scum of the earth. And I don't think it's black and white. You know what I mean? And I think Frank, the director, was smart in not saying what Brooks did. Unless you read the book or watch documentaries or interviews, which I did not read the book, then you know what Brooks did. But beyond that, you have no idea. And it leaves room for you to feel sadness without guilt, which is powerful.
Ultimate power.
Morgan says a really interesting line where it says, they send you here for life, and that's exactly what they take. Whew. That is also a good line. There are so many good lines that when I look at my notes, I remember the lines. Also, super random, another thing that's really important is the prison numbers, where you see Red is 30,260 something, and then Andy is 37,927, and then someone who comes later, I'm so sorry I forget his name, is 46,419, and you see just how many prisoners go through this prison. Between the time of Red and Andy, that's a 10-year gap. 7,000 people, like 7,500 people came to this prison. That's so many prisoners for one prison. To me, it just feels like a lot of people. I don't have anything else to say about it. It's like, wow, that's crazy to me. So later, when Andy's been doing this thing where he's been writing Congress or the county or some government official every week to get library information or library resources for the prison. And they're finally like, we pay you $200, please stop contacting us. So he sends 2 letters a week after that. But what's so fascinating is the Italian song scene where he knows he's going to get in trouble. He risks it to just let everyone hear music just for a little bit. And the warden stares at him through the window. He's like, don't do it.
You, Dufresne, turn that off!
I love it. Just a little act of defiance, just so everyone can hear some music. And Morgan Freeman says, or Red says, he doesn't really want to know what the women sang about. He'd almost prefer not to know or think it's too beautiful to put in words. But your girl looked it up because I'm nosy and I want to know. Come to find out, it's a love letter that a lady is dictating to her servant to send to her husband to hopefully expose his infidelity, which I find very interesting because if you think about it, that's the whole reason why Andy's in here is because of his wife's infidelity. And this wife in the song is trying to expose her husband's infidelity. So it's like a little interesting. I don't even know if it matters, but I was just like, what does this mean? What is this about? Let me sleuth. And sleuth I did. I don't really know what I found it. That's cool. Doesn't really do much, but I found it. Anyways. So we're gonna fast forward a bit to when something I love about this movie are the little hints that Andy sprinkles along. Tim Robbins, I think that's his name. Yeah, I got his name right, guys. Tim Robbins, the guy who plays Andy, says in an interview, this was the best script he had ever read. And part of it was because the writing was so good that it didn't say anything that needed to be said until it was time, which is very hard. I'm working on a script right now, and that is something that my mentor was like, you got to work on this. And I was like, noted, I'm taking your notes. It's very hard to not telegraph what's coming before it needs to come. And so it leaves the fact that Frank was able to write this and leave people questioning, but then at the end, all the pieces come together. There were so many clues I didn't predict until they were coming up. So the scene in the library where Red and Andy are talking.
Randall Stevens.
Who?
The silent partner. He's the guilty one, Your Honor. The man with the bank accounts.
And Andy's talking about how if the fraud ever happens, it's not going to go to Andy and it's not going to go to the warden. It's going to go to this random guy who suddenly has a passport and a birth certificate and a driver's license and a social security card. And it's awesome. And it's so funny because Andy says,
You know, the funny thing is, on the outside, I was an honest man, straight as an arrow. I had to come to prison to be a crook.
And I'm like, That's fascinating to me because the whole point of prison, allegedly, is to help people fix themselves to get better in society. And I love the fact that Stephen King wrote this book to emphasize men working on the outside. The warden does this whole thing where men start to work on the outside to rehabilitate them. And someone calls the warden. I was like, your free slave labor is costing my business to go under. Listen, prison slave labor is real and it's an issue. And we need to acknowledge that. Because they're also getting skills in there that are somehow not transferable when they leave. So people who want to get better can't. And this is when we start to see that the warden is not a holy man.
Surprise, surprise. Surprise, surprise.
Which I couldn't tell if he was just going to be like a lawful evil in the sense of like he tries so hard to be good, he's just evil. Or if he's a good guy who's intense. But no, he's just bad. He's just bad, and we hate him. And we hate him because he's bad, you know? He thinks of people as fodder, and it pisses me off. I'm not going to say much about him because I don't want to. Oh, my gosh. And then, what's his name? We threw out his name! Played by Gil Bellows. Tommy. Pisses me off. Tommy doesn't piss me off at all, obviously. He works so hard. He gives up on himself because he feels terrible. He feels stupid. Finds out that he is smart and capable. Finds out that he can have a good life so that he can go back home to his daughter. Is honest. Helps Andy realize that, well, Andy knew he was innocent, but helps everyone else realize Andy's innocent. And just because he knows the truth. He dies. And it's just like, the world does not reward you for being good at all. No good deed goes unpunished is such a real statement. And he's just so innocent, and he has such an intense role in a very short amount of time. He's in the movie, I want to say almost the least. I mean, there are other characters that are extras, but as far as people with big lines, he and Brooks are very fascinating characters because their deaths cement things in Red and Andy. Brooks' death cements in Red to not have hope, because close to after Brooks' death, if I remember the order correctly, is Red's second parole hearing. And this is my favorite of the parole hearings because he says the exact same lines he says in the first one.
Oh, yes, sir. Without a doubt. And I can honestly say I'm a changed man. No danger to society here. God's honest truth. Absolutely rehabilitated.
With resignation. And he is just, I'm so sorry. I am completely rehabilitated. I understand. Says the exact same lines, but you see this, like, I'm just repeating hogwash at this point. It doesn't mean anything. They're not going to take me seriously. And it's just this thing where he recognizes, damn, it's been 20 years. That sucks, you know? And I think that is cemented by Brooks' death. Tommy's death cements to Andy. There's no freedom here. There's nothing I can do in here that will grant me what I need and technically what I deserve, which is my freedom. I don't belong here. And now everyone knows I don't belong here, and you're just going to keep me here because I'm good at cooking the books and you don't want to get caught. And so the thing that saved Andy in the beginning, which was helping with the books to keep him from eyebrows with people he doesn't like, is also the thing that's keeping him further trapped here. 2 months in solitary. 1 month was crazy. Everyone had said they had never heard anyone have more than a couple weeks. And then he have 2 months of solitary. The first time Red and Andy see each other after solitary, I just love that shot too, of Andy just sitting with his knees up leaning against the wall and Red just walking in slowly. And it's almost like Andy's still afraid of the light a little bit because he's in the shadow, and then Red comes out of the light into the shadow to sit with him. And you can see that Andy's sounding a little unhinged. He's like, I'm gonna go to this spot. Pacific Ocean has no memories. And Morgan, or Red, is just like, we can't think that way. You can't have hope. And it's Morgan trying to protect Andy. He's like, don't have hope. It's gonna kill you. And Andy just says, yeah, you're right. And he says, can you do me a favor?
Promise me, Red. If you ever get out, find that spot.
That was it. And it's so interesting because Red had tried to warn Andy earlier to not have hope after he had played the Italian music and got sent to solitary for a couple weeks and came back out, and they're at the mess hall, and he said, don't have hope, and you just need to accept your fate. And he's like Brooks did, because him not having hope is what killed Brooks, because he had no plan on the outside. He also had no support, which is a whole other thing too. But then later, Tommy's death came from hope. And so it's this very weird contrast or clash of like dying because you don't have hope and dying because you have hope.
How can I choose?
Man. It shows both are risky. Both are so risky. So which would you rather? Would you rather die without hope? Or would you rather die doing the best you could and believing things are going to get better?
This is heavy stuff.
Both kind of suck. Kind of.
You're not wrong.
Oh my gosh. Can I just talk about how Andy accepts life? It blows my mind. The way that he talks to Freeman.
And I wound up in here. Bad luck, I guess. Yeah. Floats around. It's gotta land on somebody. It was my turn, that's all.
that is just such a crazy way to accept what has happened to you. Because, and then he blames himself for his wife's death because he's like, she said it's hard for me to open up, and that's why she left, and that's why she's dead, and so I deserve to be here.
It's just too painful.
Crazy to me. And it's just this very interesting thought process of, wow. He's like, whatever wrong, and then he says later, whatever wrong I've done, I've paid it numerous times over. But it's so interesting that he's just willing to acknowledge what was done, accept it, and then just say, it's just bad luck. That is amazing to me. I don't know that I could ever, that's the bad luck.
I'm speechless.
Okay. Wow. Man. So then the lights are out. Oh, I love that shot. Oh, I love that shot so much. It's just really cool to me. I just really love the light to dark. Whew. Who can't tell me nothing? It's such a good shot. It's so good. It's amazing to me, honestly, just to be frank. Like the director.
Go home.
I'm gonna go now. Anyway, you're still watching, so you think I'm funny in some way, I guess. I hope. Fingers crossed. The escape is beautiful. I love it.
So good.
I feel bad for Red because Andy can't say goodbye. You know, he's not able to. Also, switching the books is amazing. Andy switching the books. And I knew when the warden first saw Andy and like tested him and held the Bible, I was like, that Bible is holding the rock hammer. But I don't know where he got the knife to cut it perfectly, because those were like perfectly cut. Honestly, perfectly cut lines. I just think that that's impressive. This gives The Illusionist. I don't know if you've ever seen The Illusionist with Paul Giamatti. Okay, love that movie. Absolutely love that movie where everything's explained at the end. I mean, Sherlock's done it, you know. So many people have done it, but I love movies like this that explain everything, and you find out all the breadcrumbs that were left along the way, you know. It's just beautiful. When Morgan Freeman gets parole, because at that parole hearing he's finally honest and he's like, listen,
Am I sorry for what I did?
Well, I am.
There's not a day goes by I don't feel regret.
It was very interesting. And Morgan Freeman in an interview says that there's hope there. I didn't get that when I watched it. I took it as character development of like, yeah, I acknowledge what I did. I'm here. I'm not trying to fake it anymore. But I didn't notice the hope in that shot, in that scene. And Tim Robbins talks about what a beautiful slow push in it is, because it starts out here, and then by the end, you're like right up in his face. And it's very raw. It's just Freeman. I mean, he could be feeding off the people behind the camera, but it's just him in that shot, and the honesty and calling them Sonny. Also, it's the first time there's a woman on the board. Shows the progression of equality, because there were no women before that. But it's very interesting to me. Yeah. And Frank, the director, those 3 scenes are his favorite scenes by Morgan Freeman for this movie. Is the 1, 2, 3, seeing the character development in 3 different acts, basically. It breaks up the movie almost in Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. And I love that. I think that that's very awesome. I think it's amazing to see the range in an actor do that. I think it's really cool to watch all of that happen. And then after he gets out, he ends up in Brooks's room, which is I don't know if they knew that Brooke died in there, but that's crazy to know that was the last place Brooke was, and now you're there and you're living the life Brooke lived, and it's like we're watching him about to do the same thing that Brooks did. Everything that Brooks did, he's doing, so the only reasonable thing is to die, because he feels the same way. And it, ooh. So then we go to the end where he's like, the only thing keeping me is this promise that I made to Andy. So he goes, and he walks so far, I would have given up. I also get lost easily, so I would have been like, where is this tree? I would have stopped at every tree, like, I guess this is a tree. I didn't listen to the rules that well. But I didn't know what was, like, is there money that he had stored for a rainy day? Is it old memories of him and his wife? Like, I didn't know what it was. And the fact that he, before he left, went there and left stuff for Red. Tim Robbins says he thinks this movie is so good because it talks about real, genuine friendships that don't happen anymore. He talks about how, or that aren't in movies anymore, basically. It's just a genuine platonic love between two men. And there aren't a lot of movies about that. And that's true, there aren't. And, ooh, I love it. In his time trying to escape, he made time for someone who he didn't even know, one, if he would keep his promise, two, if he would make it out of jail, three, if he did keep his promise, would he have the guts to cross the borders illegally? Like, there were so many variables, but he still left hope for his friend, and that's what kept him alive, and that's why Brooks wasn't alive, because Brooks didn't have a friend who believed in him and didn't leave hope for him. It's crazy, and I love it. And I thought at the end that they weren't going to showcase that. Like, because the way that Morgan monologues at the end, he's like, I hope I get to see my friend. I hope the ocean's as blue as I remember. I hope. And so I thought it was going to end before they reunite. And so I was like, oh, we don't get to know? And in a way, I was like, that's kind of beautiful. But then we get to see them reunite. I was like, okay. It's a weird feel-good movie, you know? Because there aren't a lot of heightened emotions. The whole arc with Tommy is probably the where it gets the most heightened. Where we really reveal the captain and the warden's character in those moments. But wow.
Happy endings.
There were so many just loose ends that they completely tied, and I just love that. The only loose end that they didn't tie that I was a little like, aw, was after the 20-year rejection that Red received, Andy gave him a harmonica, which is a callback to the conversation about not having hope, and so he doesn't play anymore. And so then he's in the prison cell later, Red's in the prison cell later, and he plays one note. And then he can't play anymore. That's it. He just holds it and thinks about it. I really thought that at the end we would see Morgan or Red play the harmonica at some point in the movie. I honestly, how I thought the movie was going to end, I thought Andy was going to escape. Morgan was going to, everything that Andy did would happen, and then Morgan was going to be in his bed and play the harmonica. That's how I thought the movie was going to end once I saw the harmonica. I like their ending a lot more than what I thought was going to happen, but that's just, I just kind of wish they had tied that in as well, where he could have been walking to Andy in Mexico playing the harmonica. But also, if you're trying to run away quietly, you probably shouldn't be playing a loud instrument.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
So, in the list of top 100 that we've been following, Shawshank Redemption is number 57. Since this is the second movie of the list, I'm placing it at number 1. It's just such a beautiful movie. The only other movie we have is number 18 for Grave of the Fireflies, just because I refuse to put it higher because it's so sad. It will be higher. I know it will. But right now, I'm putting it at a comfortable 18.
Makes sense to me.
Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow my playlist, and I'll see you later. Have a good day.